Brett, what was the intention on going to TJ instead of Markelle in the second half?
I just thought the physicality of the game, going with a more experienced type of player, somebody that's played the whole season, was what was on my mind when I made that decision.
Did it have to do with the coverage on Dwayne?
No, it had to do with what I just said. I thought the physicality of the game, we give them credit, was elite. Those guys were really sort of bending us backwards, and I decided to go with TJ for that reason.
Brett, what would you pinpoint as the changes from Game 1 to Game 2, what you guys did and also what you saw coming from the Heat?
I mean, they responded as we talked about, as I anticipated. Words to try to convey that sometimes, or most times, are difficult and don't equal what you feel. And I give the Miami Heat credit in relation to the physicality of that game. I think that their ball pressure and standing up our passes was excellent. And I think Dwayne Wade offensively was just vintage Dwayne Wade.
Coach, is this kind of like a, okay, welcome to the playoffs type of moment for your younger guys?
I mean, you can phrase it in a bunch of ways. To me, it's the reality of NBA basketball, and it only gets harder. And our guys will learn more than they've learned in a regular season in the next few weeks, however long we play in the playoffs, about themselves in real time. And this game, we haven't lost since March, I think, 13th. And, this game equals the NBA playoffs. This is a snapshot to what you should expect when, a team is going down 2-0 if they're not able to find a win.
You guys cut the lead to 2 points with 4:29 left. After that, hit a little bit of a drought. What were the issues offensively with the execution down the stretch?
I think Dwayne's steal on Dario, we went on a 16-2 run, and I think, late 3 minutes, early 4 minutes, he came from behind and stole that ball from Dario. With about a minute something left, we had that offensive rebound, and Cove tried to find JJ and threw that pass between JJ's leg. And I give Miami credit. I felt, as you just sort of feel in the game, that any of the runs that we were making, that they ended up making some shots to stop the runs. And, I give them credit. But I think Dwayne, to your question, I think Dwayne's steal changed the game. If you were to pick sort of one defining moment, one defining play, I think it was that.
Brett, did you anticipate the adjustment they made moving Hassan over onto Dario? And then also, what did you see out of the other adjustments they made defensively?
We'll go back and look at it all. I mean, I think to speak in more detail right now, I'm not going to do that. I look forward to seeing the tape. I think the physicality was the thing that stood out more than stuff like that, the matchups.
Brett, in terms of the three-point lines, 7 for 36. If they're not falling, do you want them to go and maybe get a different shot? I mean, 33 of 60 is the other number. So, I don't know, just your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think that's, kind of who we are. And, some of our guys had a rough night. I'll go back and see the ones that we think were contested, but to pivot out of it and just sort of point at that number, I'm not right now prepared to do that. It's been sort of who we are lately, and without Joel, it's really, I think, I don't know, I hope it's smart, to cater what you're doing to the team's strengths. And so when you see that number, and then the other night we broke a franchise record, and you sort of give and take with that. I think what it does do for me, though, D, is it highlights the need to when you're seeking to become a whole team, you need Joel Embiid. If you look at the second period of the game, isn't out of whack except for the second period. If we all just like looked at the box score, it looks quite balanced except for the second period. I didn't think we handled the second period well. They sped up Ben. We learned, we saw a different look on Ben Simmons tonight. And in those moments where, they're struggling, you speed them up, that's where you want to post Joel Embiid and like settle the gym. And I felt tonight it was a really strong example for me on when you wished you had him.
What did you think about to your right? What did you think about the way Ben responded to the pummeling he took? It seemed like he really played through it and kind of showed an aggressive streak there. Yeah,
I thought he was good. What was he? He was 24, 8, and 8. With only 2 turnovers. And as I said, 3 minutes ago, he's going to learn more about himself in this playoff experience than anything in regular season teaches you. And for the very large majority of our NBA season, we weren't through defenses that, never left the paint. Their pickup points were back at the foul line as Ben was dribbling up the floor. And tonight, the whole thing changed. It's a little bit like Chris Dunn did to him in Chicago. I would say it was like 95-5, 95 tilting on. They didn't really guard him in the regular season, and 5% they would get out and try to chase him. And tonight they did. And I thought for the most part he handled it well. There's always going to be point guard moments where, what are we doing, what are we in type stuff. But by and large, I thought he handled their pressure and their physicality well.
Brett, sorry, Coach, over here. Everything's been a learning experience, and obviously this is just the latest of what you're going to learn. Going into Game 3, are you more inquisitive, curious, apprehensive about how this team, what they've learned tonight, and how they're going to respond?
I think there's some of that. I feel the thing that's most on my mind is there is a way you have to play in the NBA playoffs from a toughness standpoint and a physicality standpoint that was shown tonight. And, they responded as I knew they would, and to feel that, and I go it completely to the second period. That's the thing that has nothing to do with the magic play or the matchup. It's not that. There's a spirit in which they played tonight that was desperate, and that's what is most on my mind going down to Miami.
Coach, a lot of Wade's offense it seems like that's the kind of shots you want to force. Mid-range, off the dribble, contested shots. Is that tough to sort of deal with when a star can just come out and make those kinds of shots?
It is, and I hear your question/statement. It's true. There were a lot of long twos. There was a rhythm and a calmness to his game, like he didn't feel too much. He really didn't feel too much. And there was a real sort of, confidence the way he played to make those shots that we're speaking of. I think, we got to do a little bit better job of recognizing, how he sort of got to floor spots, especially on a middle pick and rolls, and do a better job with that. But as I said, I think the main thing that is on my mind is, that is classic Dwayne Wade.
Two more guys.
You guys seemed like you were hedging a little bit harder on the perimeter than maybe you typically do. I guess just what was the thought process behind that, and how do you think it was executed? Yeah,
just trying to have some level of equal, physical presence, trying to reroute ball handlers, ball carriers. And I think that if you study it, Derek, like you look at the way Miami plays on so many gap balls and so many dribble handoffs, if they're able just to like create some mismatches, like early in the first half, we had JJ on Dwayne a few times. You're trying to avoid that. And by and large, I thought that our aggressiveness on the ball was pretty good in the second half. I think it enabled us to get on that 16-2 run, to your point, with some hard hedges and sort of blitzing. It's something that we'll look at, and it may mean we will do that more.
Coach, how much significance, if any at all, does that 17 game-winning streak snap tonight? How much significance does that have for you and your group?
Zero. Absolutely zero. You know, we've always sort of lived in a boring way day to day. You know, from time to time I'd hear the locker room talk about a streak, and we were all aware of it. But really what it did for us and for, in my opinion, when I assessed the group, it was sort of insulation. There was a proud aspect that we were getting better. We did it, you know, with Joe. We did it without Joe. And we were trending. We were growing. You know, all the math and the numbers and the feeling was going in the way that we want. That's what the streak represented to me more than a number. It was a feeling. And I think that the confidence that we generated from that, you know, progressive winning can provide insulation. Like we will get through this. We will come back. We will go down to Miami and get ready to play Game 3. And they did what they had to do. They broke our serve. They split. And so somehow we have to try to do the same. And I got faith in our group that it is in them to do that.